The Security Council will now begin its consideration of item 2 of the agenda. The Council is meeting in accordance with the understanding reached in its prior consultations. Mr. Serry, you have the floor.
On Lebanon's presidency of the Security Council. Mr. President, since the Council last met, Israeli-Palestinian proximity talks, mediated by the United States, have officially commenced. The Secretary-General has been actively supporting the resumption of proximity talks, and the Quartet welcomed this development on the 11th of May. We commend President Abbas's continued commitment to the two-state solution and his readiness to participate in talks. We welcome the support provided by the Arab League ministers meeting in Cairo on the 1st of May and from the PLO Executive Committee on the 8th of May. We also commend Prime Minister Netanyahu's adherence to the policy he laid last year, committing his government to a negotiated two-state solution. The leaders have displayed political courage in entering these negotiations. This courage will now be tested anew at the negotiating table, initially in proximity format, with a view to transitioning to direct talks as soon as possible. Both parties have made specific commitments and received certain assurances, which have enabled proximity talks to begin. Some of these remain confidential. These commitments must be respected as much as must obligations under the roadmap and international law. We welcome US President Obama's reaffirmation that both parties would be held accountable for actions that undermine trust during the talks. US Envoy Mitchell is currently in the region for a second round of proximity talks, following the first round in early May. We commend the United States on its readiness to play an active role in the process. Quartet members remain in close touch regarding the ongoing talks. While the issues are complex and sensitive, the goal of the effort underway is clear, as stated by the Quartet on the 19th March in Moscow. The resolutions of all core issues, an end to the 1967 occupation, and two states living side by side in peace and security. Mr. President, with the start of the proximity talks, it is vital that positive actions are taken on the ground to build confidence, in both Gaza and the West Bank, including in East Jerusalem. I turn first to Gaza, where the Secretary-General has repeatedly called for a different and more positive strategy, and the UN is seeking to be a catalyst for such an approach on the ground within the framework of Security Council Resolution 1860. We continue to condemn acts of indiscriminate or excessive violence and to urge calm. Militants fired 12 indiscriminate rockets towards Israel, causing no injuries. The IDF conducted 19 incursions and 8 airstrikes during the reporting period, injuring 9 Palestinians and killing 3. 7 Palestinians were killed and 13 injured in tunnel incidents under the border with Egypt. We continue to urge Palestinian unity on the basis of PLO principles. Despite recent efforts by independent Palestinian figures promoting reconciliation, Hamas continues to refuse the unity proposal mediated by Egypt and accepted by other Palestinian factions. We call for access to and the release of Israeli Corporal Gilad Shalit, who has been held in captivity for 47 months without third-party access. The resolution of this issue, and with it the release of a significant number of Palestinian prisoners, would be in the overwhelming interest of both Israel and the people of Gaza. Above all, we stress the scale of the unmet needs of Gaza's civilian population after nearly 3 years of closure and the heavy damage of Operation Cast Lead, and urge an end to the Israeli closure of the Strip. While the Israeli government continues its existing policy, I welcome initial steps that have been taken to ease the impact of Israel's closure. The package agreed between the government of Israel and the Secretary-General in March is being implemented. The Tel al-Sultan water treatment project will be completed by the end of this month. Construction material began entering Gaza yesterday to begin completion of 151 housing units at Khan Yunis within 16 weeks. I received confirmation this morning that the essential wastewater treatment facility and pipeline at Khan Yunis is now also fully approved. 2,000 469 truckloads entered Gaza between the 11th April and the 8th of May. This represents a modest increase over the previous period, and there was a wider variety of items allowed in. The entry of wood, aluminium, and in particular glass into Gaza on the private market has enabled a range of minor repairs. However, import levels are still only about 1/4 of pre-June 2007 levels. Mr. President, this can only be a beginning. Much more is needed. The UN, in close cooperation with the Palestinian Authority, is seeking larger and more strategic interventions to address needs in Gaza. These efforts enjoy strong support from Quartet and regional partners. We are in active dialogue with the Israeli authorities in pursuit of this objective. Defense Minister Barak confirmed to me last week that Israel will further engage the UN on the way ahead. I believe we must move forward with urgency on several fronts. First, major water and sanitation interventions cannot wait. The aquifer underlying Gaza is collapsing and is expected to be completely unusable within 2 years. The salinity of water available is reducing agricultural productivity, while raw sewage continues to flow at alarming levels into the sea, as bad for Gaza's neighbors as it is unacceptable for Gaza itself. The UN has already presented a full program of the work required in this sector, in partnership with the Independent Water Authority in Gaza, supported by the Palestinian Authority. We will seek discussion with Israel on its implementation. Second, UNRWA needs to build 100 schools in Gaza, starting with at least 15 straight away. The student population in UNRWA schools will have increased by 15,000 above the classroom capacity since the imposition of the closure in June 2007. Without new schools, UNRWA cannot meet a rapidly expanding demand for quality education for the next generations of Gaza. Third, there are key construction needs in the health sector, along with needs for additional equipment. The Gaza power plant also requires a major servicing and the routine supply of spare parts to ensure continuous operation of the plant and a corresponding reduction in electricity cuts across the strip. The first step in this regard will be to ensure that all material required for this servicing enters Gaza in the days ahead. Fourth, a significant increase in both the quantity and range of commercial traffic through legitimate crossings is required to restore market conditions. At present, the flourishing illegitimate tunnel trade permits smugglers and militants to control commerce. By contrast, international agencies and local contractors who wish to procure goods entering through legitimate crossings too often stand idle due to the Israeli closure. Yet, as we have seen with the recent imports of glass, restoring functioning market conditions is the way to meet needs, lower prices, combat smuggling, and empower legitimate business activity. I wish to note that Egypt opened Rafah crossing on the 13th of May for 6 days to enable the movement of persons on humanitarian grounds. I also note that Egypt continues its important efforts to combat weapons smuggling, including by installing metal sheeting along its border with Gaza. This only redoubles the importance of goods being able to enter Gaza through the legitimate crossing